Budget work session order. Item 2.0 is the invocation. Volunteers for prayer.
I'll do it.
All right.
Okay. Yes, please, Father God, thank you for allowing us to be here today. This is on behalf of the city. Thank you for the sake of our citizens and our staff. God, I ask that you allow us to collaborate effectively as we work through this budget work session and future work sessions. And I pray, amen.
Yeah. Item 2.0 is the Pledge of Allegiance, if we could.
Washington is that way.
Washington.
Yeah, you go toward Washington when there's no flag.
Where's Mecca? Compass. All right. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and
to the
republic
which stands one nation
Nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yes, sir, I do.
Right. Item 4.0 is the approval of the agenda. Council, motion
To approve.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem, is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Benavides. Discussion on the motion? Those in favor of approval of the agenda? All right, thank you. Motion carries. Moving to item 5.1, Cape Fear Regional Theater presentation. Adam, will you do the introductions?
I don't know if they'll be. Well, council, we have with us tonight representatives from the Cape Fear Theater, Ella, and I think a lot of you already know them, so I don't know that I need to introduce them, but as you all have discussed in some of your small group, there was interest and request to provide some capital funding and a larger capital funding plan that they have had ongoing for several years. I've had several conversations with them myself, and they certainly do appreciate the challenges we're facing, but they wanted a chance to come before you and make their case for what they're seeking. And I will turn it over to them. They have a PowerPoint that they are going to share as well.
Thank you so much. Thanks. And thank you for the time today. We're really, really grateful. I'm Mary Kate. I'm the artistic director.
I'm Ella. I'm the managing director.
And we are here to formally request, as we indicated in our proposal on January 31st, $2.5 million over 5 years or $500,000 a year to be funded in the CIP.
And throughout this deck, you'll see call outs where we've highlighted places where this project aligns with your strategic goals and with vision for you. So you can see it's a great asset to make your plans for Fayetteville come true.
Thank you for the lighting assist. We really appreciate it. Yeah. All right. Just some quick facts. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. We have 14 full-time employees. Every year we hire 140 artists, and we just crossed over the $2 million annual operating budget, which represents an 18% growth from our fiscal year last year.
We impact nearly 50,000 people a year through our outreach, our education programs, and our main stage productions. This is the same number of people as Playmakers Rep and North Carolina Theater in Raleigh, and they both have substantially larger budgets than ours. So for every dollar that gets invested in CFRT, we take it 2 and 3 times as far as our peer organizations.
We are defying the industry's expectations. So across our industry right now, theaters are seeing on average a 30% reduction in attendance, but Cape Fear Regional Theater is not. When we produced Matilda, 36 out of the 38 performances sold out. It was our highest grossing show in the 62-year history of our theater. And also, theaters are closing in our state as well. There's a major regional theater in Greensboro, North Carolina, that closed, leaving Cape Fear Regional Theater as the largest producing entity between Raleigh and Charlotte, right here in our town. And why that is substantial is we are a producing theater, we are not a presenting theater. So all of the art that you've seen here, people in our town made this work. They made the sets, they built the costume, the lighting. All of those things were created by people who live in Fayetteville If you've driven past the Arts Council and seen those arts letters that are outside that are public art now, those were made by our staff. Also, when you guys funded the Cool Springs Night Circus, we built the tent entryway for them. So we are very collaborative and we have the technicians. We just do not have the space to serve as many people as we could. We are also training the next generation of theater artists. We only have one room right now about this size to rehearse all of our main stage shows and to do all of our classes. And we have seen an 89% increase in our enrollment in our education programs, but we do not have the space. So with more space, we can serve more people.
You can see our alumni everywhere. People that train here go on to shows on Broadway and national tours. Shows like Ain't You Proud, Hamilton, Waitress, Tina, and more all feature alumni from CFRT.
And in fact, 2 Fayetteville natives are in the same Broadway show, Some Like It Hot, and they are both nominated for Tonys. Now, I don't know of another city that this has happened to outside of New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles. So this is something to feel really proud about as a city. And actually, Natasha thanks both for transforming her life and her bio. So the work that CFRT does makes a lasting and national impact.
We began our capital project 3 short years ago when we renovated the theater proper with the help of 3 foundations and more than 250 individual donors. Our phase 1 renovation installed new chairs, more leg room, created fresh air intake HVAC, and installed a custom sound system designed by a Tony Award-winning Broadway sound designer. If any of you have not experienced it yet, Jelly's Last Jam runs through the 28th, and we'd love to have you as our guest.
Now, everything we did in phase 1 had an eye towards phase 2. So one of the questions we get is, well, you just did this theater renovation, are you tearing it down? No, we're doing everything east. So all of the green, anything that kisses the theater proper, and we are landlocked, so we're gonna build up. That will give us 2 classrooms, a studio space, a larger costume shop, and a larger scene shop right there on our facility. And as we like to help people say yes, it will for sure enhance diverse recreation, leisure, and cultural opportunities right here in Fayetteville. So together we can turn this into this.
Indeed. We are on a highly trafficked intersection at the corner of Highland and Hay Street. Over 1 million cars pass us every month, according to the Department of Transportation. With this transparent, beautiful facility, we will be able to communicate to our highly transient military community the good work that's happening and that everyone is welcome at CFRT. Just by driving by, you will be able to see that our audiences are 40% diverse, which beats the national average of just 25%.
You'll also see all of the different community partners that we collaborate with, like the Friendship House, the Child Advocacy Center, Book Black Women, the Delta Sigma Thetas, the AKA, the Kiwanis Club, Rick's Place, and the Cumberland County Schools. Now, this is important because even though this project may not be in your district, we definitely impact your residents.
Of the 50,000 people that come through CFRT every year, more than 20,000 of them are children and youth. And CFRT directly subsidizes more than $250,000 each year in student tickets to make sure that tickets are affordable to everyone in our county, where almost all of our elementary schools are Title I.
And I just want to talk briefly through, so this street here is Hay Street and this is Highland Avenue. So one of the substantial changes we're making is we're changing the entrance to be on Highland Avenue. This is a 5-way intersection. The city and the state both control some of the roads, and we'll get to the work that we're doing with the state in a moment. But we're changing it to make it safer. There's a drop-off for the buses for the 20,000 kids, for women wearing heels, for elderly patrons, or people who have some mobility issues. All of this area back here will be redeveloped with additional classrooms, rehearsal space. The shops will be in the back, and the front will be an incredible lobby. So a lot of people drop their kids off for an hour. They have nowhere to go. They sit in their minivans, and they use our Wi-Fi from their minivans. They now have a place to be, a place that's welcoming, and that feels like the community's living room right in our facility.
You'll also see we're adding a rooftop cabaret space onto our building. This is with an eye towards creating additional opportunity in the creative ecosystem here in Fayetteville, so that instead of training and exporting talent, we can create enough opportunity to train and retain talent right here in Fayetteville.
Now, the exciting thing is that with your one-time investment, you guys can double the impact that Parks and Rec has in a 3-year window of time. So we're asking for an amount equivalent to 2% annually of the $62.5 million that Parks and Rec gets. And this is for the kids who aren't sporty, for the kids who have asthma, or the kids who cannot be outside. This is the place that will be for them to continue to enhance their quality of life.
Our last renovation was in 1988, and to our knowledge, Cape Fear Regional Theater has not come to the city for funding since then. And the best part of this is that it's a one-time investment that requires no subsequent maintenance or funding from the city.
Adam indicated, this is Mark from Shrek, I don't know if you guys saw it, but as Adam indicated, we have had a lot of conversations, and we know that you guys are facing some tough decisions and that the tax distribution method is changing and that the table drop-off is coming in a few years, but we actually want to help you solve that problem. So we generate sales tax on all of our admissions, and we are spurring economic catalysts in that area. We haven't even broken ground, and a new music school has opened up across the street from us. And I don't know if you've driven by, but there's a new development where the old dry cleaner used to be. That happened after they saw our deck. So we haven't even broken ground, and we're already creating economic impact in our area.
We also did a economic implant study with FSU using their implant software, and you can see on this table that the aggregate of direct impact through the institution and indirect and induced economic impact over the 5 years of the project is more than $47 million of economic impact coming into Fayetteville as a result of the work happening at Cape Fear Regional Theater.
And the best part, for those of you who have attended the theater, we are solving the parking problem. So we're gonna create more than, yes! You're so welcome. No, we heard, we listen and we respond. So we're gonna create 80 additional parking spaces in the area. We're working with the neighbors and the state level Department of Transportation to install crosswalks. And the thing that's awesome about our project is we need the volume of parking from like 7 till nighttime. And our neighbors, if you've been to LeClaire's, if you've been to Wolfgang's, everyone in that area, parking is at a premium. There's signs going up all over, don't park here. That doesn't create a welcoming place to live, work, and recreate. So what we're gonna do is solve that problem by generating 80 additional parking spaces that will be open to the community. And it will also improve the walkability of the area as well.
We are asking for your support, which will empower us to break ground in summer of 2024 and complete the project with the goal of reopening in the fall of 2025.
So the state has come in, the Arts Council has come in, PwC has come in, CCF has come in, Truist Bank has come in, First Citizens Bank has come in, and just on Monday, we received a $100,000 grant from the Longleaf Foundation. So we're now at over $10.5 million, and we've only been doing this for 18 months.
This is a project the community wants for a place the community loves. It would be a huge win for the city of Fayetteville and a great project for council to point to that will have a lasting impact for the next 30 years after you invest it at no additional cost to you. World-class art does not have to be a world away. Thank you.
Council, any questions? Councilmember Ingram.
So, questions. So one of the things you said, well, we all know that our school system, we're tier 1. And you mentioned that Matilda, which is a heavily led child cast, with the largest attendance rate. So you're saying that we have the opportunity to even reach more of our children with this investment, especially with us being tier 1. And I love the part about children not those that are not sporty. I think myself and Councilmember Benavente said it would be great if we could do a rec center that was arts based. But in light, we have Cape Fear Regional Theater that are actually leaning in, going out to the schools. And so what you're basically saying to us, that reach will be greater and you'll be able to host more with that, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
it's not just the shows either, it's our classes. Our summer camps are sold out, our classes sell out. we don't have the space, we have the people, but if we had more classrooms, we could continue to, because we're offering it at a price point that is affordable enough that people can take advantage of it. And if they can't, every single one of our education programs throughout the year has scholarship opportunities available. We write the grants for that, we raise the money for it, and then we distribute it to people who are low income or single family working households. We prioritize those in our efforts.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can you go back to the map of the overlay where it shows the crosswalk and stuff? There you go. Right. Yep, go back.
Yep.
Okay. So this is my area. The major concern that I get from residents, and I think Councilmember Dawkins probably gets the calls too, is walkability.
Yeah.
And I've been tracking a study that was done by the state that, what is it called, y'all? The STIP or something like that? I think it's called the STIP. Well, the study was done and it's not being funded. And so to that point, we now have partners that are saying, we can help improve this walkability, though it's needed in some other communities. We got put at the bottom of the barrel. But if we have the opportunity to move this along further with this study that says, yeah, we need it, we just don't have the money to do it at the state level solely, and that you're already working with the state to move this forward. I've been there several times on a regular night, opening night, and it is terrifying, especially if it's dark, to see those cars maybe not see someone, not paying attention. And so thank you for including that. Thank you for including the parking situation and the change of the entrance, because that is a major shift.
Yep.
So thank you.
Yep.
Council, other questions, comments? All right, Ms. McKay, thank y'all. Good job.
Do we need to give an X or, okay.
We certainly all understand that the genesis of tonight's meeting is try to put all the budgetary pieces together, so.
Yeah.
This is good information so that we have it, but we in the process kind of.
Can you email that PowerPoint to us?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you for your generous.
See y'all.
Thank you. Yep.
Mr. Mayor, before we get started with Mr. Yates, I would ask that Kelly and Tiffany Neal, if she's still here for introduction, have a new staff member.
We do, we need to step up and get some time.
Tiffany, if you will.
Good afternoon, Tiffany Neal, Transit Director. I am so excited to present to you our new Assistant Director, Mr. Franklin Barnes. He comes from Charlotte, Mecklenburg County School System, has worked in the private and public sectors of transit throughout the state, very well known, has an operations background, which is exactly what we need to fill my shoes. And so I'm excited for him to join our team. I think you've been here 4 days?
4 days.
4 days, he's made it.
Fourth day.
Fourth day, absolutely. So we're excited to have him join the team.
Well,
Thank you. Just want to say thank you. I'm super glad to be here. I did get a chance to meet Adam at orientation. It was good. Just want to say hello.
thank you. Well. And what's your name again, sir?
Franklin Barnes.
All right, well, Mr. Barnes, welcome. You know, those disclaimers that come on the television and the radio, things that you hear say may not represent the words of this station. This is a difficult night for you to be here. But it does not reflect how great this organization is.
I was gonna say, orientation that you start them on a council meeting, right?
That should this meeting. All right. So, Council, before we go to Mr. Yates, you know, certainly I have appreciation for staff and the hard work you've done and the management team. I will say before we get started, I'm a little disappointed and a little agitated tonight to be here to go over something because I feel like I'm in class without a textbook. And I know previously we have an opportunity to on our own leisure go through, have questions, and I really am eager to hear tonight what I expect the outcome of a meeting is without the full picture and the benefit of the book. So that's just my thoughts, no reflection on you, Mr. Yates, and the manager. But I am a little disappointed that we're here, and I know that many council members, just like myself, we do have some value attached to our time, so I do want to see kind of where we're headed tonight.
Well, I'd be happy to address that. And we would all like to be in a different place. By no choosing of yours or ours, the county changed the sales tax formula. They did it late. By no choosing of your own, but we're very happy, we got $40 million from ARPA. We got $97 million in GO bond reform. We have a new ERP system that delayed both our audit and our preparation of our budget. First year we used it for the audit, and first year we used it for the budget. Our chief financial officer, who is here, has less than 12 months in the chair. Our budget director, who is here, has about 3 months in the chair. Our ACM, who is managing this, Mr. Yates, has about 7 months in the chair. And last year, you received the book on May 23rd. May 23rd. I would love to say I was early, but I'm on time. May 23rd. If we could get it to you earlier, we would. But the thing that I can't do is I can't give you bad information. And if I give you bad information, it gets stuck, particularly given the fact that we have so much at risk this year with unknowns. Even today, we were still discussing with the county what the sales tax formula means as it relates to new growth. Just today, I just read the email. They had one interpretation, we had another. So we feel your frustrations, and we get it. But tonight's meeting, what we hope to do tonight is we have a great model, we believe, for stormwater. We have a great model for solid waste. We wanted to have an opportunity for Mary Kate to come in. We actually were going to try to combine some information with the Durham Harts model tonight if there was an appetite for it and we had time. But we do understand that really the real work starts when we get you the book, but y'all didn't have the book last year this time. And we had budget meetings before. We had the CIP meeting before. We didn't have it this year because we're still working on it. But given the staffing changes, the technology changes, the influx of all the cash that we have, where we don't have funding models for the 97 million, we are literally flying by the seat of our pants. But again, I apologize for it because my hope, and it was our hope, that we would be at a further spot. But I looked at it just when I was talking to Mr. at the beginning, I opened it up to see when we gave it to y'all last year, and I just checked the minutes. It was May 23rd. And so our goal is to have it to you at your meeting on Thursday of next week, at your budget meeting, May 24th, where we will devote the entire time to going through the book. As we've done in years past, we are going to try, if y'all are able, to get with you on Wednesday or even Thursday before then to try to walk through what's in the book. And as soon as I have settled in on any type of tax rate, because we're still reviewing that as well, I won't make that a surprise. Y'all won't see that as a surprise. I'll be calling all of you to let you know what will be in there. But simply put, we have been so good at doing so many things so well. But this year, with all of the hiccups that we had, of any time I think that the team deserves praise, it is with all of the challenges that they had. But this is not where Mr. Yates wanted to be. This is not where Jody wanted to be. This is not where Kimberly Leonard wanted to be. And we stopped everything we had today, just so we could try to put the book together. But we still don't have a tax rate for it. But I hear you, I feel you, and we're gonna continue to press on, but hopefully we'll have this ready for y'all very soon.
Great, thank you. And Kimberly is upstairs crunching numbers with staff, effort to try to get the book together. So that's where she is at. So tonight, we wanted to talk a little bit about the calendar. As Doug, we want to talk about a little bit about compensation, kind of what we're hearing, and just kind of go over that a little bit. We want to talk about solid waste rate projections, stormwater rate projections, the HART model, the GO bond funding, only to the extent that it's my goal to put in front of you a CPO for the GO bonds, so that at your last meeting, you gave some direction on staff about acquisition of land, and to be able to do the studies and so forth, we need to get the appropriations squared away. So I just wanted to give you a peek at that, so it wasn't cold to you on Monday. And then revisions and additions to the parking lot. As Doug mentioned, our intent is to bring you the document on the 25th, or shortly there before. There are a lot of issues going on, and I'm not going to belabor those. But one of our goals in having these meetings, and Mayor, I know you and I talked a little bit today about it. My goal is to try to bring you, and our goal is to try to bring you pieces that help educate the public and you on those issues that we see coming in the budget, so that when you get the document, it's not all new information. There will always be a little bit of new information. As Doug mentioned, we're going to he'll try to reach out so there's no surprises, and we don't ever want to surprise you. But some of these more complex topics, for instance, the models, we want to be sure we have some dialogue about that before you see it in the budget, and be able to answer questions and have some discussion about strategy. So 29th is city holiday. We have a city council work session. We have the 12th meeting. There's been a lot of dialogue about moving that meeting because, as you know, that's the date coming back. The folks going to Denver will be coming back from Denver on that date. Plus, I think there's some other traveling going on, so this may change. We'll have to talk about how to do that and what the appropriate action is with Pam. The 19th is a city holiday. We have the 20th. The 26th is a regular council meeting. And then the last day to adopt is the 30th. And of course, the council may, any day in between, call a meeting. So I just wanted to kind of give you the calendar as we have it. I'm not going to go back over these things, but you've seen the goals, principles, and the work sessions and so forth. So I just wanted to remind you kind of where we are with our employees. With the fire chief today, he's having some challenges, his attrition rate, his classes, and kind of the way public safety ebbs and flows with folks. You know, it takes 6 months to get a firefighter out of academy, so every month when he loses someone, that seat has to be filled with overtime. And you remember your employee value proposition from your employer of choice program. Every employee can make a difference in our community, and we want to invest in our employees so they can invest in the community. And the strategies that you approved were the attract and retain a diverse workforce, competitive compensation, development, a safe working environment, and clarity around expectations, which deals with the administration of your performance program. Some of what we're seeing, and there was a study put out, I believe it was last week, about the state. The state's current vacancy rate is about 23%. So about one quarter. I think, Mayor, you were talking about that this morning on the radio, that how hard it is for every government to retain employees. And because of this, what we're seeing through PwC, through other municipalities, other folks coming and recruiting our people, anywhere between 4 to 10% compensation increases across the universe. Employees have those opportunities. The county is working on a compensation study right now, a class and comp study. They haven't said what they're going to do yet, but I find it hard to believe they spend that much money and shelve that activity. So we're kind of wrestling that. The culture is important, so we can't let down and we can't not continue to work on our cultural issues. One of the big things that when you look at retention particularly is the cost savings and retraining. If you have someone, and I think the fire chief made a really good point, a firefighter that leaves after 3 years, how much we spend in academy time and everything else, our policemen or any employee, in retention and training those folks. I think the Deloitte study said 2 to 3 times annual salary it costs to train an employee in their job. So the retention, and then the service impacts and brain drain. Kind of a textbook example, what we're experiencing right now in our budget office with staff turnover. We've lost a lot of our folks that have been here for years or they've been promoted, so it's a lot of new folks in their seat. And that's a challenge for an organization. It's a learning curve. So I just wanted to put that, be sure that we keep that in our mind as we talk about it. Let's talk about solid waste services. Daniel's here and can talk about and answer any questions. But our service highlights, we're going to continue the services that we're looking at, or that we're currently providing: household waste, yard waste, recycling, bulky, large limb, and the rapid response team. We have a couple of new initiatives baked into the model. This, I misinterpreted something that Daniel gave me, so this is actually 5 existing positions converted for the rapid response team, so the cost is a little less than that, but it won't impact the model. And then a recommendation that we add a solid waste mechanic in 2024 to keep our trucks on the road. When we build a projection, what we're going to look at is setting a rate in such a way that ensures that the services are paid for 100% through the rate. The difference between solid waste, stormwater, airport, and transit is transit has a significant contribution from the general fund. But the airport, solid waste, and stormwater are supported through their fees. So in solid waste, this model is set up to be 100% supported by rates, no reductions in services and staffing assumed, and we talked about a couple of things we've added. The growth factors are based on history. To do this, we looked back over 10 years. We said, what does our growth look like? What is our growth in revenue? What is our growth in expenses? And how does that look? And then a fleet replacement plan for your trucks. So we modeled that in. So this is what it looks like. And what we've done here is we've given you a 6-year model or a 6-year projection. The way that you read this is revenues. Functional revenues are your rates, your personnel, your costs. Transfers to other funds, in this case, represents your capital contribution or your capital payment. Your other uses are contract, in some cases, are other payments and so forth. Your services over under this line, when positive, means more cash than expenditure or more revenue than expenditure. When negative means you're using fund balance. Okay? Then this line represents your net position or fund balance within the fund. So anytime this goes up and down, it's basically the result of this net operating impact. If you're running your business, it's your profit loss. All right? So what we've done is took all of those costs, laid them out and said, okay, what does the rate have to be to support the current services, including the rapid response team and the continued pickups and everything else, to support that service and maintain the operations. That recommended rate's $280 annually. And what we've done is using your fund balance, we've used it in year 1 or year 20, FY24, we've used a portion to smooth that rate. So it goes 280, 280 in 2025, then jumps to 290 in those 2 years, and then eventually 310. Now, as we get further away from the base year, it gets a little murky. So I wouldn't, we're not asking you to adopt the 310. I just wanted to show you what the long-term picture looks like. Because if you adopt this service package and you say, we want to do all the stuff we do in solid waste, we want to have a rapid response team, and we want to have a mechanic, this is what the cost is. So I'll pause there. I know I covered that pretty fast.
All right.
But I'll pause there and answer any questions about this.
So have Councilwoman Harrigan have a question. EJ?
Okay, so with our slow climb, we go from 225, I guess that's 225 annually per household.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. That'd be correct.
Then we go to the 280. So that's what, $55. And then we go from, we add $20 more on that when we jump to 27, because that's $20, right?
Yes, sir.
It's 26?
26, that's why 26.
Well, okay, oh, yeah, I thought you
It's a
meant,
$10
yeah,
increment. So I tried to get it in
So-
2-year steps.
So my thing is, and I don't, unless I see operating expenditure, where is operating, okay, the personnel services, is that salaries?
Yes, sir. That's all of the cost of having employees. So that's salaries, healthcare, overtime,
All benefit, everything?
all the benefits.
Okay.
That's a fully loaded cost, pensions, and all of those things.
Okay, what is the rate for the man on the truck? What does the man on the truck get whenever you're putting it out there, networking for staff, and you need people on the truck? What is his, what are you advertising? His salary?
Then, do you know the hourly rate for?
Between 15 to 20, depending on a collector, it's probably coming in at 15. An EO1 or so is probably coming in at 16.
And when, if he's about 15 or 16, which I already know that's not enough, but this is hard here. Then what is when does the benefit package kick in for a new person?
90 days.
The first day of after the first full month.
Oh, so after the first full month, then the full benefit package, whatever it is, that's what they receive. Okay, all right.
Yes, sir. The pay grade for a solid waste collector is, pay grade is 152, and the salary for that ranges from 29,467 to 45,270.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a quick question for you? Are we saying that we're paying a heavy-duty truck mechanic $181,000 a year?
No, sir, that's the fully loaded first year cost. So that's to buy equipment, tools, to equip them with everything that they possibly need. Some heavy equipment as well, get at our fleet shop for them. It's to create another space so you have a heavy equipment mechanic. After that first year, it drops down.
So that's to purchase all the equipment for him to do his job?
That's right. So it's the startup cost for that position. Just like the conversions, the primary cost of the conversions for the rapid team are in vehicles and equipment. It's not, the salaries are just differential between what they are now versus the new.
So how do we currently repair our heavy-duty equipment?
We have solid waste mechanics. The more you add, the idea is that if we add another, it'll help us keep our trucks on the road versus having to lease trucks or rent a truck while one is down.
It's very costly. If
All right.
you may recall, certain council members who were here last year had requested a rate of 265. And the council said that that was not something they could support. And that's one of the reasons we're providing you with this now. If there is less that is supported by council, then we will have to adjust the expectations and what we are able to do with the money we have available. But as Jeff said, this has been built into the model of what it would take to have a healthy fund.
All right, so two questions. One, is there any fund balance being kept in these projections?
There is this line right here, okay, is the fund balance. And in fact, we had a long conversation about this. The reason why we don't set it in a hard fund balance level, but kind of keep it at a reasonable level, is because the catastrophic exposure in the solid waste fund is the loss of a truck. And remember, in Fayetteville, all taxpayers are not necessarily ratepayers. So you don't want to necessarily drain down your general fund into your solid waste utility, because this is largely residential, and so your businesses would be offsetting that cost. So what we want to do is keep enough in there to cover the loss of a truck or catastrophic immediate loss in operations, but you don't have to keep 25% or, 6 months worth of operating, because it's not, the exposure and risk isn't the same.
Okay, all right. So the other question is, I think that I was in Charlotte and I saw that they do have roller containers that the city has in commercial space. We have shied away from commercial here. And I think that as we look at this, we'll continue to put more pressure on residential customers carrying this enterprise fund, the whole sector of potential clients, because waste industries and the waste managements do not want to provide roller cans. You can't find one. It's either a dumpster level or it's very difficult to find a roller can, from what I've been told. And secondly, the multifamily units that have their own trash. The old sustainability plan had called for some type of fee assessment to them, because we have a lot of apartment complexes that add to the big picture of the tipping fees and the overall trash cleanliness of the city. Have any of these options been explored?
I'm not aware of Adam or Daniel or Sheila. Have you guys looked at shifting over doing some commercial or changing the way we approach multifamily?
No, we've not. We've not formally looked at it in terms of a rate.
Because when we go by places, they have mattresses out, they have couches out frequently. My call is to Michael or to Jackie Tucky. Jackie dispatches somebody that picks up the stuff, either your side or Rapid Team, somebody. So we're taking care of it. I don't know if we're getting any benefit out of it on the fee assessment.
Yeah, that's never thought
Right,
about that.
maybe on a one-off basis, if it's something for nuisance that's out there in the right of way, so on and so forth.
Yeah, but it's a lot of one-off, because I
Right,
report
but I think what I'm hearing the ask is, on a formal basis, what would that look if someone were to come to us, if utilities or customers were to come to us and seek for that service, then we need to be able to provide that service very effectively.
No, I'm not necessarily saying that. We're providing it, but we're just not getting paid. So what I'm saying is the sustainability plan had called for some type of assessment for multifamily situations, right?
Sure.
Because you have a commercial situation full of residential needs. So they have refrigerators and couches and things that they continue to dispose of that oftentimes we end up servicing, but we're not getting paid.
We can certainly look at that to understand what kind of revenues that would bring. I'm not.
That's interesting.
I thought you were asking for a formal process of collecting.
No.
So,
It is interesting because if I, hey, if you have, I think, an apartment complex, if you're over six, I think, the city won't pick you up.
Right.
And then it goes to commercial, but what about all the old bed mattresses and couches and things on the line? And I do see them that are piled right there at the facility, and we still pick it up, but they don't pay anything.
We do some, and
It's
there are a
very
couple on
interesting.
Kane Road. I'm sure that you see the units on Kane Road.
I see them quite often.
But the majority, thankfully, of people don't dump illegal. And the apartment complexes, I think as Dr. Newton is not here, and we can definitely check this out, Kelly. I think the UDO for the new apartments require them to have compactors as well, recycling and all of that stuff like that contained on site. But for some of the older ones that you're talking about, that may not be it. Today, I received an email from you, Mr. Hare, and one from Mr. Thompson about concerns about solid waste. I could not imagine receiving calls from y'all about apartment complex and solid waste. It is, we tell y'all we're holding on. We don't have code enforcement officers for all of the complaints that y'all see. So one of the reasons we pick stuff up, one of the reasons we pick it up is because we don't have anybody to send to go to that apartment complex and track it down to say, we need you dumped this here before, and you do it again, we're gonna cite you, we're gonna cite the owner, because we know it came out of the apartment complex. We know that. And the owner probably tells the folks on Kane Road, don't put it by the dumpster, put it by the dumpster, I'm gonna charge you. I'm gonna take your security deposit. So they put it to the road. That's a variety of other issues. But we definitely can pull out the sustainability plan there and explore that part about if there was something that we were going to mandate for those apartment complexes and provide for a fee, or mandate them to do certain things because there are some offsets. But we are literally holding on by three in so many ways.
Councilwoman Jennings?
So what I will say, and I have said this over and over through the years, that and for apartment complexes, for shopping centers and everything like that, that there is a lot of trash in these places. But what a lot of people aren't understanding, it is people coming that are not part of the apartment complexes or part of the shopping centers and just dumping their stuff there. And there can be a dumpster and you can lock your dumpster up, but they'll pull right there and drop that and drop the couch, they'll drop whatever they can just to get rid of it, knowing that the city will come pick it up, but they don't want to wait. So I will say, and I've said it over and over, I think that we need to look at a plan for commercial properties, because I know that I would pay if the city, and yes, I would be held liable for what goes on my commercial properties. But to say, yes, someone has dumped this, and this in my area, and I have called the city, well, at least I'm working with the city, and the city doesn't think that I just don't care. And as I understand that it is hard to find people to work, I get it. But it's just as hard to find somebody to pick up that couch for me. And y'all, the reality of it is people are not working. They're not working. And if you have an employee You gotta treat them good because there's 10 other people looking for them. That's the reality of it. I really believe that the way we've been doing it, we got, times are changing. And, I think it could be a great collaboration with I think it would be less headache for staff. I think it would be less headache for the commercial. Just to give you, I used to pay $500 a month for a dumpster. It is almost up to $1,000 a month. And I am taking everybody's stuff.
I think I pay 1,000.
Yes, but no, it's gone up in the past 6 months. And that's just one. So I think we just need to think.
Wait, just so,
All right, so Councilmember Ingram and then Banks McLaughlin.
Well, I was just gonna, was yours?
I'm at it.
Okay, well, I was just gonna ask, just for clarity, so you're saying our staff coming to those apartments picking up?
No.
Or you say, oh, okay, cause I was gonna say, we already have a shorter staff with picking up regular mattress throughout the city.
But what I'm saying is, it's not, a lot of it is not the people at the apartment complexes sometimes. It's just people driving down the road, they see a dumpster and they just dump it.
Right, but I think that should be the apartments.
But it's not their people doing it. So what's happened to commercial properties, they're out there and people are just driving, dumping their stuff, and then the property owner has to pay to take it away.
But I think they should be held accountable, not so much on the city, because again, we already struggle.
I don't think what you're understanding I'm saying is that the commercial people will pay a fee to pick up trash.
Well, the reason I take this up is because right now we are looking to exponentially increase until we get a level amount coming in to support this fund. And we have a whole sector of opportunity with commercial space, right? That rollaway carts, we're picking up stuff from 6 and 7 and 8 unit apartments anyway, just because it's side the road. And one of the council members, when somebody calls about it or Faye fixes it, we grab it just to keep it from looking bad.
But we're not actually going, because I think I've made a call before. So are we going through there picking up, or we're doing that just because it's laying out?
We're doing it because it's on the side of the road. I don't think, none of our trucks are going in.
Okay, so that's what I thought you were saying, like
I don't think,
our staff,
yeah.
I'm like, no.
Right.
Okay.
All right, Councilmember Hingham.
So before I ask my question, I'll say I take a different approach to what I see the issue is. I personally don't see that people are not working. I see that people have recognized their value and have started their own businesses and are not going to entities who are not going to value them for what they are worth. So to the letter of what was mentioned about, if you got somebody, you need to treat them good. I believe that, but I think that what we are seeing is more people are going into enterprise for themselves instead of choosing to work for somebody else who's not going to value them. I wanted to ask, in reference to the question that was asked about staffing, what percentage of our solid waste and Parks and Rec team are through a staffing agency?
We hire, we hire some temps almost every day.
Well, we use temps every day. I can't speak.
For pickup, right?
Yeah, we use about 6 to 9 temps, depending on what day it is or what's going on.
Every week.
And can I get the scope of kind of how much they get paid, and then some of the reasons that we're having to do that every day?
Well, we don't have in our FTEs enough collectors to actually man all of our rear loaded trucks. That's number one. So we have to use the temps. We don't have enough collectors. We still have vacancies for collectors. And there's other positions that we have vacancies on, so we use the temps for that also. And I want to say we pay the staffing agency, People Ready, approximately $16. Don't quote me on that. And I don't know what they are making.
So less than that. But,
Oh, I know it's less than that.
So
I just don't know the exact.
and I'm just gonna ask, do we offer for them to come on?
Whenever we have collector positions open, we always try to, encourage them to apply.
Okay.
Now, when we get collector positions, most of the time, because that's the, you don't need a CDL and all that stuff, we get tons of applications for that entry-level position. And we try to help as much as we can legally possible, help a temp that has been active and that's been consistent get that job, but it's thousands, not thousands, excuse me, I was definitely
You
about.
don't have a shortage then. You don't have a shortage then, based on what you just said.
No, we have
We have a
shortage.
shortage. To go through the staffing agency.
We have a shortage.
But he just said he just,
I'm talking about the applications for the collector positions. We have one position open, we'll get 100 applications.
so you don't have a shortage in collective positions?
Just not for applications for that position.
Right, so they can't all be hired necessarily.
I
They can't
understand
all be
that.
hired. And when you use a temp agency, there's two good reasons to use a temp agency. Is surge, so when you have a higher level of service need, but also the employees that work through the temp agency may not ultimately be employable on the long-term basis by the city. Because the temp agency assumes all the liability for that employee. They assume whatever, if we have standards, or if we have restrictions that keeps that employee from passing through those, hundreds of applications we get, all those folks can't be hired. They may be temp employees, the temp agency is willing to hire them, we're not.
Okay. All right, Councilmember Banks McLaughlin.
That was my question, already asked. Thank you.
Well, guys, you all have a.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, this
behind
is
you,
This is good. Yeah,
Does that
this
answer your
is
question,
good.
Councilman?
better with a book.
I hate to break out.
I didn't want you to.
It's important that I go.
So many, but Tim, I hear you.
Thank you.
All right, are we ready to move on?
Now, one of the things that, would be helpful too is there like a temperature? Just kind of put your hand high, low, just how y'all feeling? Just,
About how much to make it?
no, just kind of.
How can you check the temperature without a thermostat? The book is the thermostat.
No, this is a self-sustaining.
What are you asking us about a temperature for?
This is a self-sustaining enterprise.
But it's still into the overall picture of everything else. That was my point.
So
Because if you tweak this button and you add an extra $80 to somebody's life and you don't have the full picture and you need to add another $100 to their life over here, that's a decision that you can't make. I can't make about it.
And that's not asking you to make it. I'm asking y'all.
What's the, what does this mean then?
So then
Exactly that, what you
Can't support.
I just told you what the temperature is without all the
That
information.
was where we were.
So,
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
well,
I can sort of.
Okay,
On this.
okay.
What did they say?
what you're saying. Well, we already in the position to, before all this, before the budget blew up, what were we looking at?
We would have been looking at an increase in solid waste fee anyway. I don't know, I can't remember which council members were on, but at one time, we heavily subsidized this fund from the general fund.
Correct.
And so a lot of the improvements that y'all look at in the past where it was like, there was no tax rate increase, there was a fee increase.
Or was it, which is kind of,
It hits people differently, and it hits a smaller group of people differently. What the mayor was referring to about the apartment complexes and Mr. Hare, there are 63-ish thousand people who pay the county solid waste fee. Y'all are one of them if you live in a house, or a unit apartment that's 4 or less. And that allows you to go tip and dump at the landfill. It maintains the landfill. We take that same database of who the county charges that $60+ to, and we use that as who we bill our solid waste fee to. So if you are in an 8-plex, they don't get that bill from the county, so they don't get a bill from us, they don't get service.
so I'll say this. I wish I was confident enough to say, and this is not I like to take care of home. And that was like my perspective on the budget. I felt like maybe we should just take a beat, take care of home. And I wish I felt confident to say, okay, raise the fee this significant amount, and our residents don't even feel that the service is worth the fee that's being distributed. And it's like every year, every budget cycle, the fee gets raised, and then it seems like mass exodus, the service doesn't feel like it's being rendered to what we're saying it's being rendered.
I hear you on that, and if I can, Mayor Pro Tem, very briefly, because I see we have some other hands as well. For less than $24 a month, which is not an inconsequential amount of money, people get loose leaf collection, they get a yard waste almost unlimited. They can put mattresses, toilets, almost anything to the road that Daniel can dream of. Even at one time, it also provides for, it provides for carrying service. So when people have the dead dogs, you still have the person that does that.
Yes, sir.
We're going to actually help somebody get rid of a dead horse, the deer and everything else. So for $24, when we annexed these people back here in 2004, we asked people how much they were paying to have Republic or somebody else service their house every month. And it was $30 a month then. And they would say, we get 2 collections a week. Well, you got 2 collections, but you didn't get recycling, you also didn't get yard waste, you didn't get bulky collection, you didn't get any of that. And here, I think that this is, nobody wants to pay it, but this is the best deal in town. And when we've compared ours, try to do apples to apples, what other people have. We do much better in the city of Fayetteville than we do in other municipalities. I tell you some of the things that we don't include in this fee, or where is it in the fee this year, Jeff? We don't include loose leaf collection in Daniel's fee. So if we really want to true it up, and you actually think about what we get, we would peel that out of Parks and Recreation and put in here. But that's a service that very few places continue to offer loose leaf. You bag it up. And then there are a certain number of bags. But I hear you, and that's what we're really striving for is in those communities. And we get the calls. We got one from you over off of Rim Road and places like that, where people put stuff out and their neighbors put stuff out. And it's not necessarily our service, it's that people don't put it out in a way that Daniel can collect it. And with these inspector positions we're talking about trying to add that y'all were supportive of, our hope is that with cracking down on people who are non-compliant, that don't allow us to pick stuff up when we see it, we'll be able to improve the service.
All right, who had their hand? Mario, all right.
You said that, what year was it that you recommended 260?
265 was last year.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if we had done 265 when we were supposed to have or should have, what would it be today that we would need to raise it to?
$15 more.
It's
Hold it for 2 years.
It'd probably be a similar stair step, so the math down here would have been a little different because our burn rate on the smoothing would have been a little different.
All right.
Well, and then, so the reason I'm asking that question is that we're having to do what past councils haven't taken care of. So if it needs to be 280, if it needs to be 300, now is the time.
Well, what I'd love to do, and every time I know you're getting impatient with me, what I'd love to do is we want to bring you guys back, not this fiscal year, but an upcoming fiscal year, a multi-year rate plan, so that you are not having to adjust it every other year or every year that you have an election. Because as the mayor was alluding to, the fees you can't look at them as an individual one, but.
All right, very good. Did you have something, Ms. McNair?
I don't think I should say it.
All right, okay. Move forward to stormwater, please.
Okay, so you had asked for the history of the rates, so I just gave you a page in your packet. I'm not gonna go over it, but this is the history of the solid waste rates going back to 2011. And shows you kind of where it started and when it came into being a full fund and so forth. So our stormwater system, the big driver in stormwater is gonna be around capital projects. We wanna work on our grant funding and be able to leverage the grant funding that we have available, and that'll be clear in just a moment.
Excuse me, I'm so sorry. I just want to recap what I understood from that last slide. City manager here, based off of what I understood, and that's going to be in the recommended budget. And then we need to, I just want to make sure I know how we're moving forward on that.
Right. Well, one of the things that I do, as I told y'all when we first had our first budget meeting, is I listen real well. I listen to what you say and I look at how your body language is being else is. And so this is not a wasted meeting for me. And I will also tell you that on the other side of it, if you call me back in the fall and you ask me something, I'm gonna say, I want you to remember this meeting last night.
Thank you.
But I'm listening very well to what y'all are saying and want to say.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Councilmember Ingram. Councilmember Jensen.
So can we go to the next slide that you went through? So that showed what they were back, what what we charge, correct? For solid waste, I can't,
So this top row is the residential solid waste fee.
okay.
Which is
So-
primary.
So what I want to talk about is the last comment that was made about the city council past not taking care of the problem.
Failing to take care.
So when we came
Nope,
in, it
not
was
true.
$38.
Yep.
$38. We started looking at the budget and we were putting $11 million plus a year into solid waste. $11+ million. So you can see the path that we went on, and the reason why the four that are sitting here are so passionate about not raising it, because we were told in 2019, you bring it up to 225, we won't raise it again. And let's go back. So here we are in 2021, they said, oh, we're gonna have to raise it again. We go to 2022, oh, we're gonna have to raise it again. But we made the decision to get, please go back, please go back. We went in, where is it? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In 6 years, we went from $38 to $225, and we said, if you do it now, we're not gonna raise it. And every year they asked us to do it.
400%.
And not
Okay.
one thing gets put in. So I just want that for people to understand how it happened.
Thank you, Councilmember Jensen. All right,
You're
go
missing
ahead.
out what has
Hang on.
changed. Things change.
Well,
Uh,
I'll say this, I get what you're saying. You're saying things change based off of, but even last year, even from 2019 to not even now, we had to add more money but we were still told in 2019, we wouldn't have to touch it. So before things changed, we were told we wouldn't have to touch it, but we were still having to add money in each budget, but we still did it.
This is really
But
easy
the
to
thing is,
resolve.
we still did it.
This is easy to resolve. City manager, what changed that made you guys have to say, hey, guys, we're gonna have to actually make an adjustment here? I'm sure there was some evidence and some factors.
Oh,
You
yeah,
guys
they
had to-
provided it, but we still
I'm sure
did
there
it.
was.
But we still did it.
So what were they? Well, why did you guys have to come back after you promised that you were only gonna do 225 indefinitely?
So, if I can, sir, I'm trying to find those historical documents.
Great.
It's not my recollection that the 225 was in that.
I didn't say it was indefinitely. They just said, basically, we get here, we have extra, but what we did is we kept giving more services. That's what changed. That's what changed. And if you put, I'm getting really passionate about this, because this was a hard vote, and we sat at these tables and we went through it until we got it right. But what I will say is, we changed services, but if you go to Fayetteville, you go to Raleigh, you go to Durham, our staff is doing twice as much than most cities are doing. We are asking so much more of them, so then we just keep adding and adding. That's the real.
What happened
All right.
what happened last year was we had to put more money because we was like, okay, we done gave a lot of more service, so now we got to catch up. So we didn't add any more services to last year. We just had to match
All
what
right,
we
let's go in order. Councilmember McNair.
Was it necessary to go
Yes.
up?
Well,
If it was necessary,
whenever staff
then,
recommends and
Why?
council decides.
okay, it was necessary. That's all
Okay.
I want to know. Was it necessary?
All right.
Okay.
And
I'm
I just
I'm
want,
lost.
and I was gonna say this, another thing
It
that
was
played a
necessary, I'm
role
lost.
in it, because the county closed down their facility.
One of their landfills.
Yeah, one of their landfills. So now people are just tossing whatever on the streets, which I predicted it some time ago and said, well, let's work with the county because that'll help the city and the county, because we're gonna be stuck with going out, picking up additional items off the road.
And the county also changed the rate structure where before we did not pay, they were charging us to tip our trucks in certain areas. And,
So now we're stuck.
it's
So-
a wide variety.
All right, very good.
We need more money. I mean,
So,
We gotta do
we need more money, we need
gotta
more money. Why is everybody walking out the meeting?
because if we're gonna have to come back again.
Move on to stormwater. We met with the stormwater subcommittee this morning and went over these.
Your what, need to quit.
So kind of going back, a couple of the major features of the rate structure. This plan provides for about $115 million of stormwater over the life of the plan. There's some, included in the first year is an impervious surface or impervious area and rate structure analysis. There's a lot of discussion this morning about doing a tiered rate structure. This would facilitate that process. Watershed modeling maintenance of about $150,000 annually, and then system monitoring gauges of about $60,000 annually. So we won't belabor it, but to get to the rate, the same model, same type of model. I will point out one thing. This revenue, and part of the discussion, the same as in solid waste, is this growth naturally is about 0.3%. So Doug talked about how we determine who to charge. The rates are relatively mirrored in their growth. So the growth on your revenue side is well less than 1%. The growth in your expenditure side is in the 3 to 4% range with inflation, 5% because of personnel and medical expenses and those kinds of things. So it's a simple math problem. You're growing, your expenses are growing faster, even before you adjust services, and your revenues are growing slower. So they're going to diverge over time. So that's part of the challenge that we're trying to meet. So when we look at this and you include the capital funding, if you look here across this line, if you look at the transfers, that is your pay-as-you-go capital, and I'll explain that in just a second. Then you have in the other costs, revenue bond, debt service. So what we've tried to do is model this out so that projects that are eligible for revenue bonds, that would make good revenue bonds, are good candidates for revenue bond funding. We've tried to borrow for those, and that creates the possibility of intergenerational equity. So the folks that are paying for those, that stormwater infrastructure, are the primary infrastructure, not past ratepayers. Your 2024 recommendation is no increase. Then after that, what we did is we tried to create, using the fund balance, a stable rate growth over time. Knowing that we have to keep up with the inflation, the changing costs, including adding the debt service and projects. So it's about 50% annually on the ERU. And this starts by in 2024 using the fund balance. We burn it down and then kind of keep it relative to kind of level. It grows a little bit, but this is well within the tolerance level of variance. So what this does though is ensures your capital program, and that's the big driver, is around the stormwater capital. So as you can see, there's a couple of lines up here. Your PAYGO, which is your cash funding, your revenue bonds, and every project on here that is bold is a revenue bond project. Your grant funding, your matches for your grant funding are in the PAYGO. So you can see it's a robust capital program at the rate recommendation that we put forward. So Byron's here to answer any of those questions about the projects. Same as before, you have a complete rate history in your packet as requested, but the recommendation in this case is the $6 ERU, and then over time a gradual step increase to fund those capital projects. This also gives you some capacity in the future if those projects are going to grow in cost, or if there's something changes in the out years, then we'll adjust the rate accordingly. But this is kind of a long-term look at that rate, but for 2024, no rate increase is recommended at this time.
All right, questions on stormwater?
Are you sure?
Very good, all right. Go ahead,
Okay, so the HART model. So when we looked at the HART model, the question was the staff, was the cost. What we did is we took a look at the components of the HART model in Durham, changing gears now, going to mental health and those services. There was a presentation obviously in November concerning that. We've had some conversation. So we looked at different components in the crisis response. That includes the suicide, threat and attempted suicide, involuntary commitment, domestic violence, and so forth. And we looked at where do we already provide some level of these services.
Some level.
Knowing that there are gaps. We absolutely recognize that. But the goal was to figure out what makes sense for Fayetteville versus what's being done in Durham versus what's being done in Greensboro. So our 911 center, call center folks are all trained in getting training in mental health. We have mental health liaisons in our police department for the response, victim advocacy. We also have our community paramedic program, and we're still working with EMS to have them come in and chat. But a large part of our mental health component is going to rely on the Cape Fear Hospital System and the EMS program, because there's kind of, when you think about it, there are two responses, two kind of areas of response, right? There's the violent response, and there's nothing that's where police are going to respond when there's a person that is a danger to themselves and other people. But there's also those preventive responses that are wraparound care, and that's where the community paramedic program comes into play. So we have domestic violence, behavioral mental health crisis, like I said, custody issues, homelessness. So these are all the folks that we have working through that. And I'm not going to go into much detail because I recognize we're kind of stretched on time. But I wanted to share that with you. And I think Doug also had some thoughts that he wanted to put forward in that conversation.
We know that as part of the effort that we're doing, it's going to require additional staff. And we are, you may or may not know, we have an overhire situation authority in the police department of, I think it's 25. Is that right, Kelly? 20 officers. And so.
Over or under?
Overhire authority. So if we were ever able to get fully staffed and stay fully staffed, then the chief has the authority to hire an additional 20 people to go over budget and bring those folks on. And so the first goal is we've got two things we're working. One is we're going to be doing continuing interviews for the assistant two, and that is next week. Hope to have that person on board soon. We are also in the process of applying for a variety of grants that we feel fairly comfortable about. If you want to talk about those,
I'm happy to. We are working on a CVIPI grant, which is Community Violence Interrupters, DOJ CVIPI grant program, about $1 to $2 million program that would really help pull a lot of these community violence, a lot of these programs together, help support the A2 position for public safety and provide additional resources in there so it can sort of bring this whole network with Kevin Brooks and a lot of the work that he's doing and all of these things together. Okay.
I have a question.
Oh, yep, Councilmember Benavente.
Is this supposed to be the result of what in November we direct staff to find out? I would love to read it out loud. Consensus of council is to direct staff to identify funds for a Durham Heart type program model. That doesn't seem to be what we've been presented with today.
Well, what I just said was we're looking for a grant. And I also told you that we have overhire positions in the police department that we will be converting to provide for, what we've heard is interest of council for the mental health liaison position. And we'll have that in the budget for you guys, for y'all to consider. But we will, if it is crisis division, if the ask is, what is the heart model spend on crisis call diversion, we have that. It may not be here. It may not be in this presentation, but we have that upstairs. We have that on the we can total that up.
So, yeah, I really want dollars and cents at some point, because I don't think that's it yet. So I want to make it clear that we're not there yet.
Right.
Moreover, I want to make sure that folks, at least in the listening audience who review this later, every time it says COF Police Department, that's us not doing what a heart model does. Because the co-response they're trained folks that are not officers. So if we have COF Police Department as the ones doing it, that means we're not doing anything on that. Every time you see that. The fact that it says CIT for emergencies, that's not the same as a licensed clinician that they have in the 911 call center and in the Durham model. So I guess I need this to not look like a document that is supposed to make council or citizens feel like, oh, we're already doing all this stuff, because we're not doing anywhere near half of it. We shouldn't be trying to, and I understand we're in a budget process where we've got to keep things tight and we've got to see where we can match and fit things already. Let's have that conversation, but give us the facts in such a way that we can see what we're missing and then tell us how we can barely afford to fill it. But the way it looks right now, I think anyone who didn't know better would think that, oh, well, what's the difference? And there's a huge difference. And I need, us to make sure that people understand there's a huge difference. Because I don't think a lot of people are understanding that that's what this is sharing. So I feel like I had to say it out loud since we're having a dialogue.
So what I was trying to mention it's not about this, it was about what was just mentioned about the position about the mental health responders. That's getting put in the budget.
No, we're gonna come back to you guys with what that would look like and
So 7 months.
And so,
But you said in the budget, right?
and my goal is that the positions, overhire positions we have in the budget in the police department would be converted for any of the positions that we're talking about creating. My hope, though, is that we're gonna get grant funds that will replace those and run that for 3 years. But I don't have money I can foresee at the moment. But we have the data for the numbers, and we owe that to you. I've owed it to you for a while.
Thank you.
And we will get you that. And this time, I promise you.
So, city manager, since Mayor Pro Tem has left, can we continue with the meeting since we
Yes.
only have 5?
We have 5, so you don't have a quorum, so it's no longer, we're not doing votes. But I think we were to the end of our presentation.
So I have a
add one
question.
more thing after this, which was Gio's.
And point of order, they left, their votes are now yeses, because we had.
It's a work session. We don't do official votes in work sessions.
So, thank you. So when I brought up my council member request, you know, I made it very clear that I brought it up before the budget. So we could have the big discussion about making sure that we had some type of person up. Okay, so we're clear on that, and when we get the book, okay, all right.
You will have a list of what would be considered, probably a sheet of paper that would talk about new initiatives. Of things that if you want to add them in, we would add that probably first item on the parking lot. And we would move it around. But my hope again is that we were going to take any positions we have and convert those at the moment, because we know we have head count, even though these are overhires, which are technically not funded, but keeping the head count generally the same.
I get it, I mean, I
haven't lost track of
just,
your
I know,
positions.
we'll get on the board.
Councilman Vicente, I owe you information.
Thank you. We'll
And
get on
in
the
the
board and
interest of
figure it out.
time, though, I would say, Jeff, because we don't have 5, only have 5 here, it probably is not prudent use of your time to go through the bond, but we're happy to do so.
Well, I personally think the people that left are the ones that are most bent out of shape about budget. So that's not on us. They didn't want to stick around for the budget. You can't say it, but I can.
That's because
So
I am.
if we want to go through the jail bonds, then no, we're gonna sit here and we're gonna go through the jail.
It'll be on YouTube, they can watch it later.
That's their loss.
This isn't long. So remember, we talked about geo bonds a couple of weeks ago, estimated tax rate related. So what I wanted to do was
I'm sorry,
just,
before you do that, real quick, because I forgot. So I'm hearing a person after a certain amount of time. And I can't imagine one person having to answer a call, every mental health call for the city of Fayetteville. So I'm gonna hope and imagine that whatever that looks like is gonna have 2 to 3,
We don't have
3 to 4.
retirements over there.
I'm just saying, cause I keep hearing one person.
But we had a conversation after you left, and that's not what I said,
So, but I'll get it. I think I do. So, what we don't know right now is if someone calls and says their son or is having issues, who would we call? You guys represent the leadership of this community. Who would you call? Who would you call? Who would I call?
Ghostbusters.
We don't know. We don't know. What services are out there for someone who says they found out that their child is harming themselves? What sources are out there for someone whose kid runs away? And you see it from the police department. Why do those kids run away? What happens? What aftercare is being given to that family? It's a whole host of questions, just questions, not actions, just questions that we have. So the idea is that whether a contractor or an employee, we need to map out exactly what's out here so that y'all know. Yes, ma'am.
No, and I was gonna say, I want us all to look at the big picture. I understand it's one person, but that's a start. That's gonna open it up to bringing more people.
Yes.
Y'all keep forgetting what board I sit on at this thing.
Yeah.
You know, like we just reviewed
Yes.
last week,
Yes.
15 applications. What we're talking about,
Yes.
we're,
I wasn't saying that I
No,
was
I'm just- no,
against
no, no,
it
no.
being one
No, no,
person.
no,
I'm
I'm
saying,
saying
I
just
hope
in
it's gonna build
general.
at the full picture.
not just talking to you, I'm talking to all of us, like, let's look at the big picture. We're starting off with one, and
Yes.
it's gonna move to that. I've had conversations, we're gonna look at some grants, funding, and bring that money back to.
To grow
our
this
city.
office, yes.
Exactly, because we gotta start from somewhere.
This is where we always mess up. We're talking, y'all using different units of analysis.
That's right.
And I need to bring you back. We're going to, and so as frustrating as you may be, Councilman Benavente, when I map this out on that chart, what I'm trying to tell you is that you have an opportunity to go from this to that, but it's going to take time. And it's just, it literally is a path from the right Twix, wait a minute, from the left Twix to the right Twix.
It is.
And, but I owe you information that we've not given you yet, and we will.
Yes, something is better than that.
Yeah.
It's not what you were living on.
So basically, what I'm making sure that I understand is, what you're bringing back to us is the different paths that we can take to of after our calls needing to be answered, the different paths that we could take.
No, ma'am, not for that. What we're bringing back is, we have a gap in what we are able to provide, and we don't know who else is out there that provides it. This position is going to be a start, to be the bridge to say, what are we doing here? They're going to build it out. They're going to say, you're right, there's a gap here. And who's supposed to fill that gap? The county mental health is supposed to fill the gap, but they're not doing it. They're going to come back and report to council. This is a huge issue. No one is doing it. Then if y'all want to call in mental health group and say, how are y'all funded? Do y'all give us the funding and we might do it? Or are there contractors out there? But it's not going to be, this is not going to be envisioned a position where you're going to necessarily refer someone for counseling. Because that is, in order to be a counselor in the state of North Carolina, probably any, a mental health counselor, you got to go to school for that. And you got to do a whole lot of triage with that person before you can give them mental health advice. It's just not, but this position is going to help us understand and map what's out here. Some of what you've come up with from the Mental Health and Homeless Committee, that's what it is, but this is not meant to be a call this number and the person responds to mental health crises for 208,000 people in the city of Fayetteville.
Okay.
That's not, I can't write that in a job description for one person.
This is the
What would
beginning
you
of the
write?
toe.
What I would write is that we need a mental health, what I'm calling a mental health navigator. As somebody who, they may not be able to provide the service, but they can tell you where you might go to look. And it would also be somebody who could follow up on issues that could help build out where we have gaps.
But what's the difference between what the person that we hired, what's her name?
She handles only the things that are referred to her that aftercare from the police. This is a broader issue. You don't want stuff to go through the police.
No, we do not.
Okay.
But this is an opportunity to say as well, we do need to have a session where you write it on the board. What do you want what do you believe a community should have?
And for what it's worth, that what Durham has that we are so jealous of, the 3-person team, there's a van with 3 people in it that will literally go and respond to a 911 call that is appropriate for them. Monday through Saturday, 9 to 7. That's where we want to end up. Me bringing that and putting it to council is going to get looked at cross-eyed. Now, if an independent staff person says, hey, these are all the objective reasons, it's not Mario's politics, it's nothing but what is straight up what's going to benefit this community, comes and presents that, that's how we're going to get these things. So we need that individual staff person to exist first.
And they did theirs through a grant.
Well, we can find the money. We can take
a grant.
Take from a lot of different parts.
And they're talking about now continuing it. And it is for a portion of the city. It's a portion of the city and for a portion of the week. That we are, when I tell y'all that y'all are still light years ahead of most municipalities in the state with what we don't have, that was on the chart. And we're still striving for more. I don't want us to lose sight of the fact that y'all are doing more than most. And you're doing it without any grant funds. That's how they started in Durham. They had, I think it was RTI. Again, we made it.
So city manager, if I may, so if I may, so we know that, Councilmember Banks McLaughlin is sitting on a board.
That's funding these.
Yes. We have people.
Like Durham.
We have, and I have met with them through the board that I'm on. And we have people on this council that Fayetteville is finally getting at the table. And we can make it happen and we can get these grants, but we all have to be in it and be supportive. But Fayetteville, what we have to realize is the past 2 years, Fayetteville is coming to the table and people are listening to us and people are coming to live here. So we can get the grants, but we all just have to quit listening to the noise and go after what we want. And I know that you have, you're in the spot to get it for us. So we just need to make sure that we know what we're asking her to go do. Does that make sense? So she's on it.
I want an office.
Well, I think, and to that point, I
Go Bond.
It has.
well, no, because
It has to.
I feel like I hear something different every time it comes up. And so that's why I said, I just really want to make sure I listened to the end of the last meeting. I went back and listened, but it's like every single time it comes up, I'm hearing something different. So that's why I'm asking, what exactly were you saying, are we gonna answer a need to,
Right.
to be able to, me per se, I don't necessarily, I get the pathway, and then maybe this is just government and how it needs to be done. But if we know what we need, we know what we need.
That logic alone is never enough. You know that.
We know what we need, but we don't have the funding. That plays a part.
The city
That plays a role
manager
too.
just stated,
More than that.
we got the funding, we could probably go without the assistant that's getting ready to come on, or to transfer that funding. I mean, it's ways to do things, but I just wanted to make sure I understood exactly what he was saying for that position, because in my mind, I just couldn't understand one person having to answer those calls.
Well,
But
you're right, it would be too. And so, for the new council members, history lesson. There was a time that the council recently said that homelessness is not our responsibility.
Sure did.
And we,
They still saying
and through persistence and slow movement, we're getting ready to open up a day resource center.
Big difference.
And so, there is also a time that we would say that mental health response is not the city's. There's nothing in this book that talks about mental health response. Before the council knew it, Chief Hawkins had slipped in those positions. Y'all didn't know we were hiring those because she saw a need for it as well. We didn't know that Chris McLean was going to be over at ECD with Chris Cawley, but we did that through a grant too. So we're in this with you because we live in the community with you. But one of the things that I'm not clear on yet, is what willingness to pay, ability to find people to do it, and what services the city of Fayetteville says we're going to provide door to door equitably across the entire city, not just Monday through Friday, and not just in a select area of town. So you've got 95 square miles, 208,000 people. How many teams do you think it would take to be able to respond to mental health crises across the city? If that's the model that we're going to and other cities are going to, the positions that we're mapping out for y'all will help us hopefully grow into that. But it has to start somewhere. And while I think the 5 of y'all that remain are one of mine, the 10 of you are not, as it relates to exactly what level of service. And this position is going to hopefully be an opportunity, if funded by council in the budget, for us to see if there's information out there that gets it.
Stay strong, y'all 5. Stay strong.
I just think this is necessary.
Stay strong.
I'm not-
All of
I'm
us.
not-
Stay strong, y'all. We're gonna have to fight for this, all of us. Stay strong.
All of this is necessary to get.
Yeah, I'm
Are
on
we
that.
talking about employee pay wages? Is that what y'all stay strong for?
First,
Oh, yeah, I'm.
We need y'all to
I don't think
do
it's-
all this, so
I don't
yeah.
think it's a fight. I think it's a conversation. I think
That's a
it's a
better way, that's a better way to.
I think it's a conversation.
it's not a
And-
conversation when you walk out.
It's a conversation when it begins to happen to people. It's a fight when nobody is experiencing.
So what I would say is, I think it's a conversation that us all sit at the table and realize that we have an issue that we have to discuss.
You can't do that.
Yes. And so, one of the
It's a
things,
conversation when people are impacted by it.
Let's, guys, the 5 of us plus one more, we can do this.
and so,
Stay strong.
and again, we have the geo stuff, he is ready to roll through that very quickly. But I agree with whoever said it, it's not necessarily a fight. This is, it really is about what you value at the moment and where it goes. But, you also have to do things in partnership. Work that you're doing at state level, stuff that we're advocating with the county, because guess what? If you lean forward, other people are gonna lean back. You gotta make sure that you hold folks accountable, but at the same time, we gotta move.
Yes.
That's right.
Speaking of moving.
That's right. So the schedule's in your packet. This is all your GO bond projects. The thing that I really wanted to put in front of you tonight is at your next council meeting, we're gonna ask you to adopt this CPO, which will start all of these projects and kick them off. The challenge is then, because there'll be debt service coming on, that's gonna commit us to the funding plan. So if we go, that, I know, it's a little outside of budget, but you gave direction to buy land, we've started the process. So we have things that we need to spend money on. We've already, our CFO Jody has signed off on the reimbursement resolutions, which are authorized. So we've stated our intent to issue this debt, but we haven't authorized any money to be spent. So I want to just be real clear that once we put the CPO in front of you and it's approved, we're going down the road of the plan unless there's going to be reductions in other areas or you're going to do something different. So I just wanted to put that on the table for you. I want to put it on the agenda for Monday nights. We can buy the land and do the environmental assessments. So we need to move quickly. So I just really didn't feel comfortable not giving this to you at some point before that meeting.
Okay, Councilmember Benavente had his hand up.
Oh, okay. I didn't know we were doing that still.
How do I get rid of that 25 cents?
I'm with you. I'm with them.
Well, this is one of the things that we talked about just a moment ago about the solid waste fee. We're already projecting and we know that a car now is going to cost you more in a couple of years. So we're talking about $97 million worth of cars. And we're telling you in advance that we think we can do it for 4.2. We think we can. We haven't even bought land. We think we can do it for 4.2. So if you want to restrict us, then what we're going to tell you is that we're going to have to do it according to what we have available. And that is your choice. It's absolutely your choice. But it is going to limit how much you're going to be able to do on the back end. And so that's the council's choice.
What is it that we're doing with the 911 center for fiscal year 2024?
So this is the start of hiring consultants to help us do the planning, siting, the environmental work, all of our, and once site selection, all of those different components. This gears all of that project management front end up so that we can, if we need to do property acquisition, there's a little bit of funding for property acquisition. So in the next 13, 14 months, we need to be able to do that.
Okay, quick. So why would we do that if we don't even know where we are with the conversation with county?
I'm meeting with Mr. Greer, and under any circumstance that we have, the county is going to want some money from us to co-locate. And co-location only works if you are serious about consolidation. They are not going to sell me a piece of land, and should not spend $30 million building something on land that we don't own, unless you're planning to get married to them, which is a whole separate conversation. And I'm more than willing to do that. But I'm meeting with Mr. Greer. No one, I don't know, it's either, there must be next week, say Thursday. And I have asked him, every time I've met with him, is I simply need to know your temperature to move forward, because we need to move.
Okay.
But I would welcome, what Mayor Pro Tem left, if we can bring this up to the city county liaison as well, to try to advance, but we've made the ask.
When do we plan on meeting? Because we hadn't had a meeting.
But it's the county's year.
So I
And
don't know how to
from what
translate that.
from what was told to me, and I think Councilmember Benavente was there when it was said too, and correct me if I'm wrong, there ain't nothing to meet about, and I'm not.
I remember, that's what was said.
There's nothing to meet about, and people don't wanna be wasting their time meeting about nothing. That didn't come from our side, that came from the county side, or whoever calls the meeting for them this year. You can put it on record. Now, I have a follow-up question. The one that's right below that, is there discussion about co-locating those two?
Fire Station 16,
Yeah,
is that the one that is,
the one we're getting ready to.
well, one of the considerations that I heard today, and it makes sense, is that when you look at the majority of the city is on the west of the river.
Oh, okay.
And given some of the concerns that we've had about access across the bridge and stuff like that, if the 911 center is also going to serve as a potential EOC or some other things, it probably is not the most prudent if we've got tons of space to look. But we're going to explore that a little bit further. Did I state that right, Adam, from what we talked about?
And would that help bring that cost down if we were to?
I think that what we're looking at, that again is the site work. One of the things that if we have enough time, I would love for Rob Stone and Sheila on her side as well to come to you guys and talk about when we say it's a $10 million project, how much of that, Sheila, do you automatically pull off for design? About 10%?
At least 10%, it's more at 15% now, I would say more than 15%, and then when you add geotech, this, that, and the other, it adds more things.
So what was a $10 million fire station, now really it's about $8 million on construction. Then you back out of that, how much you have to spend for furniture, fixtures, and equipment, that's another 5%, 7%, so that comes off of it. Then if you got to actually buy land, then there's a factor of land. So what was a $10 million facility is actually only $6 million. Everything else is just what's needed. That's why we need the money in advance. But my hope is we would be able to do it, but I have a strong feeling that the councilman representative for that side of the city of Fayetteville won't allow me to pull a single wide out there in the little garage. So I have to build something nice on that side of the river.
Thank you.
That $2 million, I remember we were talking previously about maybe not pulling on the housing just yet, but now I see it's 2 million.
So what we were able to do, and I worked with Chris Colley and Kelly on this, is we didn't want to slow down the loan programs, those things which are generating interest. So working with Chris, we looked at how do we fit that in. So we modeled it this way to be able to get all of the things that have been approved. Now, you absolutely, if the council desired, you could pull this down in some form or fashion. I can tell you, it's not going to make this change materially because your big driver is everything above.
Yeah, right.
Right? And after we issue all this debt, if there's a possibility to roll that down, we could. The odds are that the cost of these projects are going to jump. So there's a little bit of space in your rate. If you remember, we set a floor of $1 million in the rate model, in the tax rate model to do that. So we pitched it down as far as I felt comfortable, and talking with Doug and Adam and the team. I think this is an achievable program. I would hesitate to bring it down much further.
And I would just say this again, if y'all, in your talks and discussions, when we have the budget and it comes to you next week, if it is 4 cents, then we will do an amazing job with 4 cents. But we're telling you in advance, based upon what we talked about for 97 million, it's going to be 4 1/4. But if it's 4 cents, we're still going to impress folks with 4 cents, but won't do it.
Can I ask, I think that, I don't know, I can't remember what our funding mechanism was for the down payment program. So somebody sent me the limits And, you have to be really, I mean, you have to make barely nothing to get it. And there are people that
We're talking about the first time homebuyer?
to get the
Talking about the Good Neighbor
20,000.
program, right?
No, the purchase assistance program. So for one person household, it's 37,350. Two-person household is 42,650. A person who makes what, maybe 40, 45, maybe if they have a child or something, they still struggling. Even in the 50s, they're still struggling.
That's how much I make every year. That's true.
I believe it. They're still struggling.
Yeah.
So they could not even apply for this program or get any benefit of this program. So how can we, is there a way for us to change this minimum?
One of the things that is a conversation that many communities are having is around affordability and homeownership. And I think that the goal of homeownership is one that is we should strive for, but what as a community we have to provide is decent and affordable housing, even if that's rental. And I don't know when folks bought their first home, I was 30. And it was more than a fixer-upper. Couldn't use the bathroom downstairs because the toilet was would shake off the floor. And it took me and some friends, we fixed it. I'm not saying that I'm a normal case, but the income limits for homeownership are concerning not only because people can't find houses for that, but when you put people in a house, are they gonna be able to maintain it for what they make?
Mm.
And that becomes the real piece that is, it's not just getting them in there, it's ability to afford.
Well, reason.
I just think these limits are,
Look,
they're low, but for people, for the working class, we couldn't participate, but we still struggling. So I think, and I'll say this, I come, I grew up in that low income world, but I also grew up into working class. And so I think we gotta find a balance is what I'm asking.
yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Are we done?
Nope.
And adjourned.
It's the most important part.
So
More stuff.
last part. That's what we've covered. We feel like we provided this information to you. We still have some open items. I won't belabor them. This mostly will come through the next couple of weeks. And then any additions that you have, we'll be happy to take them now, or we can adjourn.
Additions.
Can adjourn. Please.
I put an asterisk by heart model dialogue because I don't think that was provided all the way like we asked. And then for additions, I'm going to ask this question tomorrow during our full council meeting after the police Monday, whenever it is. The city of Fayetteville, through the police department, is utilizing the Phoenix Center more so than we ever have before. And I believe it behooves us with the statistics that we've seen related to domestic violence, that if we're using them more, that we support them more. I know that we provide them with their building, but if we're going, that's sort of where we're at right now with the current work that they do for the police department. But since it's grown, I think we need to do a little bit more for them. I've already reached out to their director. They're going to give something to Doug that describes what it is they would need. But that's an addition that I just wanted to preview for everyone here that I think is going to, it's something I think we probably owe already and are going to continue to need over the rest of the year. So put something down for the Phoenix Center, basically.
Yeah.
Emergency shelter is what they're most interested in. I don't think it'll be dissimilar to what we're doing with the impact reduction program. FUM, for example, Fayetteville Urban Ministries distributes X amount of dollars for shelter. I think it would be the same idea, just be the Phoenix Center being able to do that with cases that they get referred to them.
For domestic violence situations.
Specifically, right.
How we've done this in the past is if they're able to document how they save me doing money for something, I can pay them for that something. I would have a hard time giving them hotel vouchers potentially. But if they're able to document that they do X, which saves me Y, then I can contract with them for that. And so that's why part of the contract we have, I think, with them or another group is that they actually provide rate crisis counseling or over the phone or help us with youthful victims and or if they wanted to come back and say they're also addressing something as rates for trafficking. If that's a component of some of the services that they help. But I'm happy to talk to her as you and I, thank you for bringing this to me last week. But we will look for any way we can because the needs in the community are huge, huge.
Phoenix Center. Additions is Phoenix Center.
All right, motion to adjourn?
Well, I want to thank y'all. Thank y'all for hanging in there.
You're welcome. Is the thing off? Top mic off?
Not yet.
If somebody leave,
Mic's off?
if we lose form, it's like in the minutes, like we, the meeting end officially now or when we like